Hey everyone, welcome to today's podcast, Tuesdays with Perry, episode 104. Gonna get Perry on the line just a minute. We're gonna be discussing General Mark Milley and how Pete Hegseth sidelined the general for his traitorous activities. We're gonna talk about $50 million worth of condoms, and we're going to talk a little bit about Gary Peters, a senator from Michigan, I believe, who won't be seeking another term. So that's up to us to get that seat. All right, let's see if we can't get Perry on the line.
Hello.
Hey, Perry. Welcome to the podcast today. Thanks for joining me. Great to talk to you, my friend. How's it going down there in sunny Florida?
Things are finally starting to warm back up, Rudy. You know, yesterday was the first day in over a week I was actually able to wear shorts. But technically speaking, it doesn't count because my better half and I were on assignment down in Southwest Florida. But it's beautiful here today back home. It was 72 degrees. Gotta love it.
I'm envious. It's freezing up here. I can't stand the winter, but that's a story for another time. So apparently, Mark Milley, the four-star general who was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who acted traitorously by calling China and telling them, if we attack you, we'll just let you know beforehand.
Rudy, I heard you mention Mark Milley, but you cut out so much I wasn't able to follow your line.
Oh, sorry. So Mark Milley is...
Hello?
Can you hear me? How about now?
Hello?
How about now? Any luck?
I'm here. Hello?
Any luck? Hello? Check 1, 2, 3.
Rudy?
Yep. Still here.
Rudy?
Hey, what's happening there, brother? Can I
Rudy?
do you hear me? How about now? Check 1, 2, 3. All right, we're gonna go to
Are you still there?
a quick break. Hold on.
Hello?
Hey man, can you hear me? Can you hear me? All right, hold on, everybody.
Hello? I'm here.
Can you hear
You know,
me?
it never fails. It never fails.
So I got you now, or what? What's up?
Yeah, it definitely is on your end because I've got 5 bars and everything seems to be working here.
Yeah, hold on one second. I might just be, hold on one second.
Okay.
Are you there?
I'm here.
Any better?
Oh, right now it's fine. I hear a little bit of feedback, but it's hardly noticeable on my end.
All right. So we're back. So
Okay.
let's get into Mark Milley, the four-star general who was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who it was recently ousted. He retired, but apparently his security clearance and his security detail has been revoked, prompted by Pete Hegseth. What do you know about this?
Well, I learned about this morning, and yes, I learned about it through X, and I started doing cartwheels in the living room. There is a God after all, because not only has he been removed from the National Security Council that he was a member of, not only was he not only was his portrait, which we mentioned last week, hanging up in the Pentagon along with all the former heads of the Joint Chiefs of Staff removed, but Pete Hegseth has taken full credit for these decisions, in addition to saying he is now looking into removing one of those stars off of Milley's shoulder.
Oh.
He's looking to demote him to a 3-star.
Wow.
And it couldn't possibly happen to a better guy. As your audience has heard me say on multiple occasions, this man is a traitor to the country. And if I had my way, which I don't, he would be brought before a tribunal. He would be tried. He'd be convicted. And the penalty for treason, as we all know, is death by firing squad. Or if he chooses, he could be hanged if he wants to dangle.
Right.
But that, to me, would be justice for what this man has done, not only to the armed forces, not only to the office of chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, but most importantly, to the respectability of our country. You know, we have countries around the world, friend and foe alike, that no longer trust us because of things that this man said and did as chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. So these actions that Pete Hegseth has already taken in his first not even week as defense secretary are long overdue, and I am so glad he's done it. So we'll see. Yeah. We'll see where it goes from here. But it's like everything else that's happened since 12:01 a week ago yesterday. I wake up every morning waiting to see what else has happened.
Yeah, it's amazing. So Pete Hegseth was confirmed with a tie-breaking vote being cast by the vice president, J.D. Vance. That was important. And Kristi Noem got sent through on Saturday. She is now riding along on some of the ICE raids. I don't know if you saw the footage from that. And,
I did.
And tomorrow we have apparently RFK Jr. is tomorrow, and Tulsi Gabbard might be as soon as Thursday.
As is Kash Patel, I believe all three of them.
Right, Kash Patel is also on Thursday. What a little detour here. What do you think the prognosis is for getting these folks through? I imagine Kash Patel will be an easy shoe compared to Tulsi Gabbard or even RFK Jr., because apparently there's some even Republican resistance that's mounting against Tulsi specifically, but also RFK Jr.
Well, let's start. If you want to start with Tulsi first, let's do Tulsi first. I think the so-called resistance that she's starting to receive from within the Republican ranks has more to do with souls that have been sold within the United States Senate than it has to do with anything she has done or said in her professional life as a professional soldier of over 20 years. So let's take what the concerns, so-called concerns of some Republicans seem to be. Well, you know, she went to talk to Putin. Well, whoopie fucking do.
Right.
She talked to Putin.
It was actually Bashar al-Assad.
Well, also, no, it was both.
Oh, really?
I don't know if I think it was Russia first and then Syria, but she went to speak to both. And my argument to any of these numbskulls, and they are numbskulls, is you don't think John Bolton over the last 30 years has gone and talked to these same heads of state? That's what you do when you are either in the intelligence services or in the diplomatic corps. In the case of Tulsi, she held elected office. She still, by the way, unlike Mark Milley, still has her top security clearances. So my argument to these lame-brained Republicans, because I don't give a flying flip what the Democrats say, because we don't need a single Democrat. And that's another thing. I keep saying over and over and over again to people that I have political discussions with who happen to be like-minded conservatives. I don't give a damn about any Democrat. They'd be smart, meaning someone like John Fetterman. They'd be smart to recognize what direction the country is going right now and get on that train, which is the Trump train. Okay? So I could care less whether they want to be a passenger on our express or not. I prefer they come along. You know, not every Democrat is a demon. The vast majority are. But the ones who have an open mind and maybe will vote with us 20, 30, God willing, 40% of the time, those are the ones I'm interested in. But I don't give a damn whether they vote with us or not. If they vote with us, great. We don't have to necessarily target them. We could spend our election dollars 2 years from now on getting rid of people like Schiff.
Right.
That's spelled S-H-I-T, by the way. Because I believe as a special election, he's up just like the moron in Georgia 2 years ago, up for re-election on a special election because he's filling out Dianne Feinstein's term right now. So I'd rather attack people like him, who, by the way, made the excuse of having to cast a vote so that he didn't have to face the music in front of Trump this past Sunday when Trump went, Friday, when Trump went to smack Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass around a little bit. Wasn't that delicious?
Yeah.
Wasn't that absolutely delicious?
It was certainly.
Well, we can maybe start getting people into their homes in a week. No. Tonight.
Yeah.
Tonight.
Yeah.
That's what I call leadership. Anyway, getting back to Tulsi. So I'm not interested in worrying about whether or not Democrats vote yay or nay. We don't need a single vote. What I'm interested in is going after whoever these turncoat rhino Republicans are. I'm sure one of them's going to be Susan Collins. We can forget about her. She's a Democrat in Republican labeling. Okay.
And so Mitch McConnell, Susan Collins, Murkowski.
And Murkowski. Now, I don't know if it's happened yet, but people need to start telling her You better start packing your things because you're not going to be returned to office. And I think it's in 2 years. I think she's up for re-election in 2026. You're not coming back. We are done with you. Trump won your state by 13 points. You had to use the tools of the Republican machine in order to get pushed back into office 4 years ago. We haven't forgotten that, Lisa. You're as corrupt as your old man was corrupt, as the rest of your family was corrupt. As a matter of fact, I'd go so far to say that your family is our version of the Biden family.
Yeah.
And we're going to start finding whatever dirt you have swept under your rugs. So you better pack your things if you don't get on the Trump train and start going along with the party faithful here. So Uncle Mitch, I don't think gives a rat's patootie. He's leaving office in 2 years. He's not going to come back. He's done. He literally voted against Pete just to be able to flick a booger in Donald Trump's face.
Yep.
That's what that was all about. That was his John McCain moment. The only difference is he wasn't able to throw Pete under the bus. He didn't have an extra vote to make that happen.
Yep.
Okay, so we have to focus on whoever else besides Lisa Murkowski have to be talked to. Is John Barrasso not on board? I don't know. Let's find out.
He seemed like he was pretty close to Trump, so we'll see.
We'll see. Well, the proof is in the pudding. Okay, we've got our own turncoats. We need to make clear to them by way of the grassroots.
Yeah,
and just say we're coming for you if you don't toe the line. So, as far as Bobby goes, I'd like to say I'm really worried, but I'm not, and I'll tell you why. I think there are going to be some Democrats, again, starting with Fetterman, that are going to vote for him. I honestly believe that we may get as many as a half a dozen. Maybe. I mean, my God, Kristi Noem got 39.
Yeah.
Okay, so I am concerned, but I'm not as worried as the press is trying to paint this picture. That's not to say it's going to be easy. They have continued to try and spread the lie that he's anti-vax. That's not working anymore. It worked during the campaign. It stopped working during the transition because Bobby was able to get his face in front of a camera, and when asked that question, said, I am not anti-vaccine. I'm not even anti the mRNA. I'm just saying that there needs to be full disclosure. People in our country deserve to know everything when it comes to what they put in their body. And they are not being properly informed. So therefore they are incapable of providing consent
right
to what's going in their body. And no, there should not be any type of mandatory program. And so when the average Joe Schmuckatelli hears him say that, therefore they start to think, well, then what is the problem that all these people in Washington, D.C. have about, RFK Jr.?
right.
He's not this he's not this crazy that we've been told he is. So that's the reason why I don't want to say I'm optimistic. I'm realistic. I think Bobby is going to be the most difficult, but I still say he's going to be pushed through. And that brings us to Kash Patel. They have tried in the last 8 weeks to do everything they can to destroy this man's reputation. Rudy, it hasn't worked. It hasn't worked.
Right.
And I I honestly believe it's going to be a very close vote. It is there that I'm not sure he will garner any votes from the Democrats, but
Certainly
I
not.
honestly,
Certainly not.
no, right, right, because he's going to uncover all the bodies,
Right.
all the bodies,
Right.
and they have too much to worry about there. So we have to focus our concern on what Republicans are wishy-washy. Now, you and I both know why certain Republicans are wishy-washy,
Right.
and that's because of the skeletons in their closet.
Right. I mean,
You know, how many? Yeah.
do they want to face the wrath of MAGA if they don't vote the wrong way? Because there's going to be a certain amount of vindictiveness that we've come this far and that you're gumming up the works. You know, do we have to call them all Mitch McConnell? I mean,
Right, right. And so that's why Murkowski is so important for our movement. We have to make it clear to her. And all it takes, you know, I am not someone who's big on social networks. I only go to X for news purposes. There are a half a dozen reporters that I follow, and that's about it. I don't go there for entertainment. I'm not on TikTok. I'm not on Instagram. I'm not on any of these other. I'm not even on Facebook. Yes, my Facebook is still there. I haven't had an entry there. I haven't gone there in years. So, you know, all I can tell you is from what my friend who is inside, I shouldn't say really inside, but for all intents and purposes, I'm not going to tell you who she's connected to within the Trump White House, but she is inside the Trump White House. And she has told me the amount of fear injected into not just the Democrats, but especially the Republicans who didn't want to vote our way, who have been getting bombarded by way of, you know, pick your poison. I don't care which social network you use. They are getting bombarded by people, and they're taking it seriously. It is one of the reasons why Pete did get through his confirmation, because you had not civilians like us, but you had everyone from the remaining World War II generation all the way down to the young people who have just left their service in the United States armed forces in the past year or two. So you've got everyone from centurions all the way down to young people that are less than a quarter century old, bombarding these elected officials saying, you better pass Pete Hegseth through the confirmation process. And when it comes to veterans, whether they're 24 or whether they're 104, they stay connected. It is a brother and sisterhood.
right.
And when you look at all of these veterans who were sitting right behind Hegseth during his confirmation process, you know what they were when they were looking at all the senators up there, formation stage, they were making it very clear: we stand with this man.
Yeah.
This is our guy. This is who we want. And so, I believe if people do that for the next three nominees, I am certain that each one of them will pass.
Yeah.
Because
Has Pam Bondi been
not yet.
No, okay,
Not yet.
That's good because she's another one.
What is it? I always call him Belkin. It's not Belkin, but the Treasury Secretary passed easily.
Yeah, Bassett.
I mean, he humiliated them last week too.
Yeah, he certainly did. Let's switch gears here for a minute before we get to our favorite politician. So this guy, Gary Peters, he's a longtime senator from Michigan. He has just announced that he is not seeking re-election. Already, Pete Buttigieg is up his ass, and he wants that Senate seat. Do we have anybody up there that could even run against Pete Buttigieg?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, her name escapes me at this second. And I think that's the reason why I'm seeing her all over television right now. Not just Fox, not just Newsmax. I'm seeing her everywhere. I'm seeing her on even the regular over the air alphabet channels. She ran against Gretchen Whitmer for governor. And she's a young woman, but she is MAGA through and through. She's incredibly smart. My problem with her is how she comes across to people.
Right.
It's kind of like, I love Carrie Lake, but I don't know how this woman did not successfully win office, whether it was for governor or senator, because of her ability to articulate her arguments. And so this young woman, whose name escapes me at the moment, she's a lot like Carrie Lake. She's brilliant. But I could see how the people who are either apolitical or lean left, I'm not talking about the Kool-Aid drinkers, just
right.
Lean left. I could see why, as much of a failed governor as Gretchen Whitmer was and is, I could see why she was able to defeat this young woman. Now, I think she would make an excellent candidate, but she's going to have to be like Trump was if you go back and you study Trump from the time leading up to the Biden. Yeah, at his rallies, he's typical Trump. But when he was being interviewed, he was very cool, calm, and collected. You never saw him get outraged about anything. No matter how they tried to bait him, he stayed cool. He's staying cool now. And, that's why it was so much fun to watch him Friday out in California. And so this young woman's going to have to take a page out of Trump's 2024 candidacy if she's going to run for senator. I believe she's got the inside track. There are a couple of others, but they are state senators.
Right.
And I'm not sure if they have the name recognition or the money to win a state like Michigan. As for Petey, I only hope and pray he gets the nomination. I really do. Because he's never had to answer for his incompetent running of his city. And he's never had to answer for the incompetent way he ran his department at the Department of Transportation. And the fact that he took 12 weeks off to bond with his adopted baby. It boggles my mind how he thinks he can hide from that. So I pray to God Petey gets the nomination. I really do.
Yeah. He's I wasn't able to find the woman's name. I think it was Penciller, something like that. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure.
You know what?
We won't delve into that right now. So one of the other things you wanted to bring up before we get into condoms in Gaza, $50 million worth. We're going to talk about Trump. Can he run for another term after this term is over?
Well, let's deal with the rubbers for renegades. Okay.
You want to do that first? Okay, very
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. This is just another example of how much of our tax dollars have been literally thrown away over not just Biden's term, not just Trump's first term, because he didn't have the support of the Republican Party to do everything he wanted to do 8 years ago. He has it now, but he didn't have it then. This goes back really to the Great Society and Lyndon Baines Johnson. It has mushroom clouded over the past 6 decades. And this is just another example. Now, it was said on Fox News tonight, whether Jesse's correct or not, because he claims to not be a mathematician. You could basically buy 500 million condoms for $50 million. Now, the question that needs to be asked is, why would our federal government give $50 million worth of condoms to people who do not practice birth control? And when I say that, have no desire to. They refuse. They are like Hasidic and Orthodox Jews, and for that matter, strict Catholics and born agains who do not believe in birth control. Okay, that's who we're sending $50 million, 500 million condoms to, and then we find out tonight, for some reason, Hamas doesn't have any food to give its people, but they have all these helium tanks that they're using to inflate all these condoms with, that they strap together and use to drop bombs over Israel with. That's what our $50 million bought us, is more death and more carnage inside the barriers of Israel by these animals who revere death more than life itself. So Trump has supposedly put a stop to it. I don't know how he can, but supposedly this $50 million that was going to the next round of condoms is supposedly not going to end up in Gaza. Who knows? But this is part of what Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, and to a greater extent, Trump, have been saying for years now. You want to know why the Pentagon can't pass an audit? That's why. Not the condoms, but that's how much money is being pissed away. Because the money that they can't claim for a certain project, whatever it is, goes on the back of another program. And that program now goes over budget in order to move that money back to a project that they don't want the American people to know about. And that's why Doge is so important.
Indeed. And that Trump Trump put a freeze on all foreign aid.
That's right.
That's right. We're going to go over that on a case-by-case basis.
He put a freeze on all spending.
Yeah.
On all spending. It doesn't matter what department.
Yeah. Chuck Schumer shit in his pants.
And rightfully so. Because you know what? He can't play sugar daddy anymore. And that's what this is all about.
Yeah. So let's get
every bit of it.
Yeah. So let's get into Trump. There is some technical, I guess, loophole that you think that Trump could serve another term after this?
Well, you know, I've been preaching this now for at least 2 years, but certainly possibly as long as 3, that when you read the amendment as written, and this is the thing that you have to understand the difference between someone who is an originalist, like Clarence Thomas or Alito, certainly those two. I don't know. I'm still out on Kavanaugh, but it looks like he's getting close to being an originalist.
Scalia.
Well, Scalia is long gone, unfortunately. But when you look at how an originalist jurist looks at and reads the Constitution and all the amendments, they read it as fact. In other words, it's almost like the Bible. Thou shalt not commit murder. It doesn't mean you can commit murder if you feel like it. It means you won't do it. And that's exactly how originalists read the Constitution. So when you read the amendment, it says, and we need to talk about birthright citizenship as well. Okay. I wish I had it in front of me. I should have been better prepared. Anyone seeking the office of president shall be limited to 2 consecutive terms. The key word here is consecutive. It can be argued when you serve 1 term and then you come back, whether it is 4 years later or 8 years later, if you win that election, you should be entitled, therefore, to run for a second consecutive term.
Right.
This has been my argument all along. And it will be very interesting. I think I said last week on your show, there is too much work to be done. This is not the time for Trump to bring this up. But unfortunately, there is someone in the United States House of Representatives who's already drafting legislation.
Yeah.
And I appreciate his enthusiasm, but damn it, man, now's not the time. Yeah. The time is in 2 years after Trump has gotten so much done. The people of this country, the vast majority, meaning anywhere between 55 and 60% of the country, are demanding he be allowed to run for a second consecutive term. Not now.
Yeah, that'll certainly be, if it does break the news, it'll certainly be contentious. It'll cause a few people to melt down. So you wanted to talk about birthright citizenship as long as we're on the Constitution, the 14th Amendment, and in the jurisdiction thereof, I guess, is the sticking point there. You wanted to talk about birthright citizenship. Everybody knows it wasn't meant for people that are visiting here temporarily or certainly here illegally.
And it's very easy to say that. And somebody said that today on Fox. It was a talking head. It was a guest. It wasn't one of the hosts. And I don't remember which show. It doesn't matter. I was just applauding the person. They said, if being born in this country by a non-citizen or non-citizens, both mother and father, are both citizens of another country, therefore under the jurisdiction of that country. If that were the case, then how come when foreign diplomats end up giving birth in this country, how come they are not giving birth to an American citizen?
Yeah. As Maggie Brennan said, oh, that's a cutout. It's a cutout in the legislation for diplomats.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. Because they're not...
Really? Can you show me where, Maggie?
No.
And that's, I didn't watch the interview with
JD. Right. Well,
I saw on your show, but I didn't watch the entire interview.
yeah, I don't care, Margaret. Basically, they're talking about in the jurisdiction thereof. I mean, it's the same clause. So if that clause, if foreign diplomats aren't under the jurisdiction of the United States or the state where they're giving birth, the child isn't a citizen.
Or how about someone that worked, I don't know, Raytheon, and they and their spouse happen to be like my buddy, who was counsel for over 30 years for General Dynamics. He came right out of NYU Law School. Before he even took his bar exam, was offered a job by General Dynamics. Never left. Got his golden parachute. He wrote contracts all over the world. His children were born in different countries, educated in those countries, because every few years he went from one country to another while he was writing contracts for a defense contractor of the United States. Well, both he and his wife were native-born American citizens. So the fact that they are native-born American citizens, and he is conducting business on the behalf of his employer in a foreign country, the United States Constitution allows automatic citizenship to his child, but
Right.
not to a child who is born to, oh, and here's the best part. I told you, we need to take back the lexicon. What are you hearing starting at the White House, and now it's traveling out amongst the media? You no longer hear undocumented immigrant. You
Yeah.
no longer hear illegal immigrant. You are hearing what I've been demanding we be saying as a country now for the last 10, 20, 30 years. Illegal alien.
Oh,
The fact that you were, and Caroline
Levitt.
Levitt did a fantastic job today saying to the moron who asked the question, they're all criminals. The fact that you come to this country illegally makes you a criminal, every one of them. So if you are an illegal alien and give birth to a child in this country while you have illegal status, not legal status, illegal status, then why should that child be considered an American citizen? That's pretty clear.
Yeah.
That's pretty clear if you read the Constitution, because as you said, and I cut you off, and I apologize, Rudy, but I'm passionate about this. The whole purpose of birthright citizenship in the 14th Amendment was to protect freed slaves who were
Right.
not considered human beings during slavery. That's why it was written. It wasn't written for people who invade our country.
Right. Right.
It
Well,
wasn't written for the benefit of diplomats from foreign countries.
yeah.
It was written to protect the people of this country.
Right. No other country has a law so ridiculous as that.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
so parting words. I know we had this short. We had we came in with a little technical snafu. But what are some parting words? What do you expect for Trump in the next week? We've seen a flurry so far of unprecedented action by the president. Even sending people to California to turn on the water. And a slam dunk Karen Bass. What do you think's coming up in the next week?
Geez, I'm still woozy from the first week. What can I say except more of the same? I mean, the man signed over 200 executive orders within the first 96 hours of his presidency. So that means a lot of action on the part of every department. Most importantly, defense. Most importantly, state. most importantly, energy. And, when we can start getting the price of a gallon of gas back down, I don't think it's going to make a big difference for the price of a dozen eggs, but it's going to start. And if we can get gasoline back down to just under or even around $2 a gallon, like it was 5 years ago, everything else is going to fall into place. Because other than the cost of production, the only other expensive part when it comes to producing food or durable goods in this country, the only other thing that you can control is the cost of transportation. And when transportation costs go through the roof because a gallon of diesel, depending on what state you're in, could be as much as $9 a gallon as it was out in California in 2022, okay, then everything else becomes more expensive.
We can only hope.
Everything.
Yeah, we can only hope.
And not to mention, you have what is one of the stocks that went through the roof last week? Nuclear power plants.
Right. Well,
Westinghouse, GE, yeah.
They were talking about, which was my idea directly, that people should have invested in that, is that when they announced the data centers for the AI, which now has been rocked quite a bit with DeepSeek, is they talked, and Trump mentioned this, as having these small new nuclear power plants connected directly to the data centers. So that was something that they were floating there, which seems like a good idea. I mean, it's supposed to be in the middle of the desert. Well, some of these are in Texas, so we'll have to see what the Texas people think about that sort of nuclear power in their backyard. Anything else? We have Marco Rubio in Panama. What do you think is going to come of the Panama Canal? We're going to seize it back by military force, or
I don't think I don't think it's going to take military force. I think Marco is saying, because keep in mind, the new president of Panama is not an enemy of the United States. He's, from what I've read, and keep in mind, consider the source when you read, but from what I've read of him, he's a no-nonsense law and order guy. He made it clear to the NGOs, you are going to have to find another path when it comes to moving migrants through what is currently the Darien Gap. I am not going to tolerate it any longer. Now, words are cheap because it was still happening. But my point being is he saw the writing on the wall. And he did not want these people coming through his country anymore, unabated. So he's not an enemy of the United States. I think Marco is going to speak to him in his native tongue and say to him, El Presidente, you know, I know, President Trump and President Xi also know that the Chinese are running the Panama Canal. When Jimmy Carter foolishly gave you the keys to the locks, one of the things in that treaty was that you would maintain control over it. We did not give it, as Trump said, we did not give it to China. We gave it to you. You have reneged on that treaty. So we could do this the easy way, or we could do it the hard way. Yeah. You could let us come back, take control of the canal zone. It's called a zone. We can take control of the zone again. You will continue to earn all the fees that you have always gotten. The United States of America collected the fees and immediately passed them on to the people of Panama. We never took any money from that. We're going to continue to do that. But we're not going to let the Chinese control these locks anymore. Yeah. Now, here's the fly in the ointment. it was not Panama that paid for those new locks. You know, my family and I have been to the Panama Canal 3 times in the last 20 years. The first time I was there was in, I think it was 2006. And they were in the process, the Chinese were in the process of building the new locks. The second time, they were already constructed and operating, and that was in 2012, I think. And the last time I was there was a year ago, and we sailed through the Gutan Lake locks and spent the day inside the lake. And the ones we went through were brand new. Well, they weren't 100 years old, let's put it that way. And so the Chinese are not going to simply pack up their things and leave. So they're going to have to be reimbursed for all the money they spent in building those locks. The question is, who's going to pay? But it's going to happen. And it's going to happen because Donaldus Magnus has made it clear. The Chinese are a threat. And because they are a threat, they cannot be allowed to have control over the daily operation of the Panama Canal Zone. And it's that simple.
Yeah. And Panama owes its very existence to the United States. So who are we kidding here? That's right. Let's just remind them of that and say, hey, however you want to do this, we need to have more of a presence here. I want to thank you for...
And the other thing I want to point out before we go, when I was first there in 2006, we actually took an organized tour. And we went to an area where in the background, you could see all these multi-story dilapidated buildings. They look like dilapidated apartment buildings. And so I asked our tour guide, are all of those apartments built for the purpose of all the employees of the canal? There's a lot of buildings there. And she said, no, sir, actually, those buildings used to be the barracks for the United States military. They used to protect the canal. And when the United States pulled out, the government of Panama gave all of these apartments to the poorest of our people so that they would have a place to live. I said, well, who maintains the building? And she said, well, that's the thing, sir. We don't have the money to maintain the buildings, and that's why they're in disrepair. Our people have suffered mightily because the United States military is no longer in Panama. She said, imagine this, Rudy, even the most junior non-commissioned officer, so we're talking about sergeants and ensigns, people who might be in their early to mid-20s and have started their family, even they could afford a nanny or a maid to take care of their unit. That's how poor the people of Panama are. And she said the worst thing to the country was the United States leaving Panama. Now imagine, because the Chinese aren't building anything for the Panamanian people, okay? So imagine what a boon it will be to the Panamanian macro economy, not micro, but the macro economy, if we end up coming back and putting 2,500, 5,000, 10, maybe a whole division. You know, I mean, Trump's going to build up the military. We're going to have a fighting force that no one wants to screw with again in 2 years. And so, who knows? So to answer your question, I don't think it will require military force. I think it's going to come down to dollars and cents. And that's what Trump is best at.
Yeah. He'll make a deal. Let's make a deal.
He'll make a deal.
All right.
He'll make a deal.
All right, man. Thanks for joining me tonight. Can't wait to talk to you next week. We got a lot to talk about. This was a whirlwind this week, so I can't imagine what next week. Hopefully, we'll be talking about a full cabinet and all the nominations or all the nominees got through.
Amen, brother. Amen.
All right. I'll see you next week.
All right, buddy. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. See ya.
Take care. Bye-bye.
There goes Perry, episode 104 of Tuesdays with Perry. Thanks for joining us tonight. Join me tomorrow and every day, Monday through Friday, live 10 a.m. on Rumble for the Rudy's Revelation podcast. Otherwise, I'll see you next week when I rejoin Perry for episode 105, Tuesdays with Perry. Peace out.